Dear students, welcome again to the module 2 of the part 1, that is Introduction to the Management. In the module 1, we have discussed about the basic concept of the management, the importance of the management, and we have discussed about the nature and the characteristics of the management. In the module 2, we'll be discussing about whether the management is a science, management is an art, management is an administration, or management is a profession. So this is very complex question, and various practitioner of the management has different school of thought regarding what management is. So this is an overview of the module 2. We'll be discussing about management and administration, their relationship, management as a science, art, or the profession. Whether the management is an art or not, we'll be solving this question. Whether the management is a science or management is something different. Okay, so we'll be discussing about management as a science, management as an art, and management as a profession. So talking about the very first thing is management and administration. Now, management as a concept we have discussed has evolved long back during or pre-industrialization in the 17th century, and the management practices can be traced way before that as well. So there are different practitioners who has propounded their theories based on their experience, their observations. So based on the different preconceived notion or the assumptions, management and the administration, the viewpoint are different. So largely we can see that there are three viewpoints between the management and the administration. The administration is above the management. Administration is a part of the management, and administration and management is one and same thing. Now the very first assumption or the first school of thought is administration is above the management. Now the American expert or the American practitioner of the management, they think that administration is above the management. And why they think so? They believe that administration is a higher level activity while management is a lower level activity. Administrator takes the determinative functions and the manager takes an executive functions. The American practitioner believe that the administrator is something which is with respect to the policy and decision making, and the management or the manager is someone who execute or implement the different objectives and the policies being framed and how these can be implemented to complete the organizational objectives or the task in the organization. So administration is a determinative function that determines which plan of course will be conducted in the organization, and management is executive function, and it is with respect to how these functions can be performed. Let me take one example to understand this concept in more in depth. Suppose a company is planning to have a new project. The new project is launching a new product in the market. Now it will have several processes. The decision regarding which product to be launched, which area we need to explore to launch the product, who will be the tentative customers, it will be decided by the administrator. And this is something conceptual thing, or it requires more mental energy or mental thinking process to decide which area to be selected to select for the process of launching the new product. So it will be a determinative function. Plans regarding which product, policies regarding who will be the vendor, decision regarding what technology we'll be using, it will be an administrator thing. However, the managers will be responsible for achieving those objectives which is laid down by the administrator. It will be done through hiring the employees, providing the training to the employees, and make sure that the plans are executed at the middle level and the lower level employees. So this is one of the doubt that administration is above the management. Second is administration is a part of the management. Now the British school of thought consider that management, administration is a part of the management. It is totally a different or opposite viewpoint which the American thought, and they believe that administration is a part of the management. It means that the managers will be deciding the plans, the policies, the objectives, and future course of action. And administration will be in the supportive role to achieve those objectives. So this is the second thought. And the modern practitioners, they believe that administration and management, it is the same thing. Administration is commonly used in the government department, while management in private sectors. Every manager performs both set of functions with variation depending on the management level. They believe that the new practitioner like Henry Fayol, other practitioner, they feel that it is the equal responsibility of both the manager as well as the administrator to contribute towards the achievement of the objective, and they play an equal role. So these are the three viewpoints between the management and the administration. So I hope we would be able to understand the basic concept about the administration and the management. So it will be better if we get more insights about the differences between the administration and the management. So taking into the consideration of the American thought of school, we differentiate between the practices of the administration and the management. So based on the various categories, these two are differently or separately discussed. Very first one is the nature. It is a determinative function. Administrator is a determinative function, whereas management is an executive function. It means administrator will deciding what to do and management will be deciding how to do. So this is the basic differences. Scope with respect to the determination of major objective and policies. So the functions of the administrator, the scope lies in formulation of the objective and the policies. So it is something which is at the higher level of the management. Second is the management. It is more of the implementation of the policies. As discussed, once the policies, objectives are formulated, it is equally important that those policies and objectives should be implemented at the different level of the management as well. And it is the duty of the manager to implement those activities. Third one is the level. The administrator will be at the top level of the management. As we know that there are three levels of the management: top level, middle level, and the lower level. So administrator will be part of the top level management, whereas the management, they will be under the lower level and the middle level manager. Next category is the direction of human effort. Directly not concerned with the direction of human effort. So administrator, they are not considering the human factor or the employee factor while they are formulating the policies in the organization. They are more giving emphasis towards the other factors like the citizen or the people outside the organization who are the part of idea generation for the any kind of objective or they want to have for policy formulation. Whereas in the management, actively concerned with the direction of human effort. So in the management, the manager is more concerned towards how the employee will be able to complete those or implement those policies to achieve the organizational objective. So a manager is more surrounded with the employees, whereas the administrator are more towards the higher scope or bigger picture they look into to develop the policies and the objective of the organization. Main function, as we can see that in the administration, planning and controlling are the main function. because it is the duty of the administrator to plan the activity and at the same time to control the activities as well. Whether the planned activities are executed properly or not is the function of the administrator. Whereas in the management, it is the directing and organizing as well as the staffing as well. The managers are given the responsibility to motivate the employee to complete the task within the stipulated time period and within the stipulated cost. So for that, they need direction, they need motivation and proper organization of the work as well. Skills required at the administrator, conceptual and human skills are required. Whereas in the management, technical and human skills will be more relevant. So we'll be discussing in the upcoming session regarding the skills of the manager. Usage. Mostly in the government sector and the public sector, the term administrator will be more suitable or applicable. Whereas in the management the term management is more relevant in the business organizations. Influence. Decisions are mainly influenced by the public opinion in the administrator. As mentioned, the administrator will be emphasizing the influence, or the decision will be influenced by the opinion of the people outside the organization. Like suppose you want to start a new business. So you will not be influenced by the employees of the organization, but you will be influenced by the customers or the different stakeholders in that area. That will be more applicable in taking the key decisions or the policy formulation. Whereas in the management, decisions are mainly influenced by the objective of the organization. So once the policies or objective are formulated, the management or the whole team will be oriented towards accomplishing the objective of the organization. Moving beyond, we'll be discussing about the nature of the management, whether the management is an art, science or the profession. For that, we need to understand the basic terminology and the definition of each of the discipline. Talking about the very first one, management as a science. Now, what is a science? Science is a body of systematic knowledge acquired through observation, experimentation that explains certain general truth or the operation of the general laws. If we break down this definition, 4 elements are very much relevant. Very first one is it is a systematized body of knowledge. Second one, principle based on the observation and experimentation. Third one, verifiable principle and the universal application. Now, science is something which is having a developed branch, and new knowledge is being added up with the time, and new knowledge being added up. So we can call it that it is very dynamic discipline, science being very dynamic discipline. Second is principle based on the observation and experimentation. So science is a discipline which is based on the cause and effect relationship. It is not like an experiment you conducted once and you call it as an observation or it is a scientific principle. It should be applicable at every situation, and the experiment result should be consistent over a period of time. Third one is it is a verifiable principles. Management or the science is based on certain principles, and these principles need to be followed once the experimentation or the cause and effect results are derived. Last one is the universal application. The science theories and the principles are universally accepted. It is not like it is accepted in one situation and it is not accepted in another situation. If it is so, then we cannot call it as a scientific principles. So universal application means the scientific principles should be universally or diversely, it should be applicable at every situation. Now we have understood the concept of the science. Now we try to relate whether the management is a science or not. So we can say that there are some traces in the management practices. We can call it as a scientific principles as well. So how management is a science? Management has a well-established principles. In the later session, we will be discussing about the management principles. Fayol has propounded 14 principles, which is very much relevant and applicable to every business situations. So we can call it as a science, management as a science, because it has well developed principles as well. Taking one example, management principle regarding unity of command. Now, the unity of command uh, emphasizes that the subordinate should follow only one boss at a time. Now, it has based on the observation that if you are following more than one boss, the performance of the subordinate will decrease and the productivity will be also decreasing. So it is based on certain observation, based on certain principles. So we can call management as a science as well. The second thought regarding management, principles of management have been developed through continuous observation and empirical verification. It is observed that there are different principles in the management which is directly linked with the scientific observations or the scientific verification. For example, one of the principles is regarding the time and motion study. Now, the time and motion study says that a particular activity in the organization should be completed within a specific time period. To be very specific, let me take one more example. If product is, suppose our employee is given the responsibility to pack a particular product. Now, it is based on the observation and based on the scientific techniques, it has observed that the time need to be taken to pack a product is 5 minutes, for example. So it is the standard time. Any employee is taking more time than the standard one, it is not acceptable by the management. So the time study will give you an idea that how much time should be given for a particular activity. And these are based on the scientific assumptions and based on the scientific experiment. So to conclude, we can say that management is a science. And how it is a science? Because it uses certain principles which are developed over a period of time, and it is universally applicable at every business situation. Moving ahead, whether the management is an art or not, this is a very important question. We have discussed that management is a science, but whether it is an art or not. So for that, we need to discuss what is an art. Art is defined as a skillful and personal application of systematic knowledge to bring desired result. Or if we break down this definition, the feature of art is existence of theoretical knowledge, personalized application of knowledge based on practice and creativity, and situational application. Now, the very first one is the theoretical knowledge. Now, as an art, you need to practice a particular activity more and more so that you become more proficient in performing those activities. So, it is a theoretical knowledge which need to be practiced again and again. Second is personalized application of the knowledge. It means that the two practitioner or two artisans can be different in terms of their qualification, in terms of their skills. But ultimately, it should lead towards the achievement of the objective as well. Third one is based on the practice and creativity. As we know that the more and more you practice, your art become more proficient, and it will bring creativity and innovativeness in terms of the output and the desired result. So this is one of the feature of the art. And last is the situational application. Art is a discipline which can be used in the different situation as well. For example, if a particular employee is working in one situation, for example, pre-COVID situation, there was a ease of doing any activities. They were working at the office, they were meeting the colleagues over there. But over a period of time, post-COVID, what we have seen, there has been rapid transformation in the ways the business are conducted. So, situation analysis is that the particular activity can be performed at every situation. Now, the bigger question is whether we can conclude that art is a management, is an art or not. So, there are certain points which proves that management is also an art. Very first one is management involves knowledge and skills that every manager has to apply. like any artisan, any person who is practicing any skillful activity, that person need to perform those activity regularly. In the same manner, the manager also need to apply all the skills regularly, be it the conceptual skills, be it the human skills, be it the technical skills. So in this way, we can call it that management has some features of the art as well. Second point, like any other art, management is creative in nature. It brings out new situation and makes resources productive. In the art, the more and more you practice, your innovativeness will be increasing. In the same manner, in the management as well, the manager, through the creative ideas, they need to reflect some innovativeness in terms of the offering they are to the society with respect to the development of the product or innovativeness in the services. So we can say that the manager also practice regularly to bring efficiency in their operations. Third one, like any other art, management is personalized process. Every manager has his own approach and techniques. Although principles are very much uniform or universal, the two managers, if they are following the principles, like it is okay that you are following the singular principles, but how the principles are applied, two managers can have the different application or the practices for that. Okay, so management, we have seen that each manager has their own style. So we can say that the management is also an art. Last one, as an art, management required judgment and skills. Many times the manager faces the situations regarding the decisions that they have to take in the odd situations. Take an example. If the manager is continuously taking the raw material from the particular supplier, now suddenly at the very peak time, the supplier has not delivered the raw material at the required time. So manager has to very much skillful and judgmental in solving any kind of the problem. Okay, the manager has to arrange the resources or the raw material within the time so that the delivery should not be affected. So this shows that the manager is also required to take decision and judgment based on their skills. So we can conclude that the management is also an art as well. Last one is the management profession. So there are different traces which says that management is a profession, but not fully, and it is a like in the development stage. So before that, we need to understand what is a profession. A profession is a specialized occupation backed by specialized knowledge and training with a restricted entry. Or we can define the profession using the features of the professions. Very first one, well-defined body of the knowledge, minimum qualification, professional association, ethical code of conduct, service motive. Now very first one, defined body of the knowledge. Like for any profession, there will be a well-defined body of the knowledge. It means in the profession, you need to have well-defined setup. For example, a medical practitioner will be performing all the activity based on the body of the knowledge of Indian Medical Association. Likewise, a chartered accountant is performing all their activity based on the diverse knowledge of ICWAI. So a well-established body of knowledge will be there in the profession. Second one is the minimum qualification. In the profession, you need minimum educational qualification to perform any kind of profession. For example, for medical practicing, you need MBBS degree. To be a chartered accountant, you need to have the degree from the ICWAI. Third one is the professional association. In a profession, there will be a regulatory body or there will be a association who will be guiding all the practices. Fourth one is ethical code of conduct. If any unethical practices being identified, then there will be a penal action against the person who is done any kind of unethical practices. And last one is the service motive. In the profession, the service is beyond any activity. Like you are working for the welfare of the society and for the welfare of the people. So we can say that in the profession, these are the some predominant features which is required. But important question is whether the management is also a profession. There are two situations, we can call it as a profession. Management is a profession, but there are certain features in the profession which do not fit with the management discipline. Very first one is a well-established body of the knowledge, crucial for effective managerial skill. Like in the management as well, we have All India Management Association, which is having a well-established body of the knowledge. Second one is supportive managerial association aiding professional development. So All India Management Association, time and again they conduct workshops, seminar, so that the skills of the manager will be enhanced. Existence of ethical code of conduct promoted by the management association. There are different ethical code of conduct being framed if any manager is taking any unethical decisions. So there will be some penal action against that manager as well. Emphasis on service motive within the management practices. We can say that the management or the business organization objective is to earn the profit. But at the same time, the people are realizing that providing service to the society is also very important. And the organization which is pro society oriented, they are getting more advantage in terms of their market share. So service motive is also one of the element in the management as well. So on the basis of these four sub points, we can say that management is somehow is part of the profession as well. But other points are also there which negates that management is not a profession. What are those points? Entry into the management lack restriction. Like in the profession we have discussed, there will be a minimum educational qualification to be a practitioner. Like in terms of the medical practitioner, you need an MBBS degree. But in management, there is no minimum standard or minimum educational qualification required to be a manager or to start a new business. Although we have seen in the recent years there are different management educational institutes are there who are providing the educational knowledge regarding how to become an effective manager. So we can say that this particular field is emerging. Management field is emerging, and in the upcoming years we can see that it has also the minimum qualification can also be there in the management practitioners as well. Presence of numerous management associations. There are not a unified management association. There are different management associations. Like if we compare, we have only one association in the medical practitioner, that is Indian Medical Association. But in the management, we have different management associations. Last one, absence of universally accepted code of conduct in the management. When we will be discussing about the global management practices, we will see that there will be different approaches in terms of the ethical conduct of the management in the different countries. So these points negates that management is an profession. So we can conclude that management is a emerging discipline, and so many changes has been witnessed in the management, and post-COVID rapid transformation has been seen in the management practices. So management is a science, that is a proven fact. Management is an art, it is also established, but we cannot say for sure that a management is a profession. So this was the content that we have discussed. To summarize this content, what we have seen, what we have discussed in the module 2. In the module 2, we have discussed about the management and administration. What is the relationship between the management and administration? The difference between the two. We have answered the question whether the management is a science, art, or profession. And these are some of the suggested readings you can go through to get more insight about the management and its nature. In the upcoming session, we will be discussing about the levels of the management and try to understand what are the different roles and responsibility at each levels of the management. That's all for the day. Thank you and happy learning.